If you love liberty, declare your independence by signing the Shire Society Declaration at shiresociety.com.
Okay, another Representative Penelakis is here. We'll open the subcommittee hearing on 287.
I'm glad I know the exist.
What do you want to meet on that?
Yeah, we do.
I was going to ask, do you mind if I move a chair around?
Any way you'd like to sit. The subcommittee can sit any way you like.
Frank?
I will too, sir.
Okay, seeing as how you're the senior member on the subcommittee, I would be willing to have you speak first then.
Okay.
Experience. What would you like to do with this bill?
I have no problem. I have a big problem with the bill of wage.
Okay.
You are not going to get anything
I'll
done
figure out.
here. You've got 3 senators and 3 reps, and they're going to meet up when they feel like it.
Yep. So you feel the commission would be more effective?
If you wanted to try for a commission, I think it would be more.
I agree with you.
But I don't think we should get it with 25 people.
No, I agree.
I think we ought to.
What's the rest of the committee? Randy, what do you feel about a commission instead of a committee?
Oh, I feel that I support the notion of having a commission that has all stakeholders involved at the table. I find that I don't think having 5 reps or 3 reps and 2 senators is going to be. I don't think it can give it the attention and bring that the issues deserve. They're somewhat complicated, obviously.
I'd say probably that's right. What would a commission be made up of then?
Well,
it depends on what the subject matter is, and I think that from what I understood during the public hearing, there was an interest in broadening the subject matter to discuss human trafficking in particular, to include human trafficking, sex trafficking in particular.
I do have a suggested composition of the committee that I just got from the Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence. If people, I don't know if anybody.
That was emailed to everyone in the subcommittee.
Yeah, so the I could either print it or I can read it off. The Commissioner of HHS, or designee, Director of Children, Youth and Families, a designee, Commissioner of Safety, a designee, Director of Commissioners. There's no commissioner status of women a designee. They used to be, right? No commissioner status. It's the
This was, just so it's clear, this was the suggestion. Amanda had said that the coalition would reach out to the task force looking at this, so this was their recommendation. We're just passing along.
So, Chiefs of Police, designee, Coalition Against Domestic Violence, the Minority Health Coalition, representative, somebody from Child and Family Services, somebody from Legal Assistance, somebody from the New Hampshire Coalition on Homelessness, survivor trafficking, engaged in anti-trafficking survival, representative, a sex worker, former sex worker, representative of an organization advocating for supporting the rights of transgender individuals, representative of the ACLU, and I don't know, Stephanie Halter, PA Plymouth State. That's what was included. And there's some suggestions for what the scope of what the work of the committee might be. Would you like me to read what they suggested? Sure. And I haven't read this through either. I mean, scope of engagement in New Hampshire sex trade, including informal, formal, fully criminalized and legalized structures, factors driving engagement in the sex trade in New Hampshire, demographics of those engaged in sex work, rates of sexual violence, domestic violence, substance use disorders, mental health concerns amongst those engaged in the sex trade, which including institutional violence, barriers to reporting or seeking support services for victimization, prevalence of human trafficking amongst those engaged in commercial sex, needs of those engaged in the sex trade in order to exit such work, rates of arrest for prostitution-related offenses and other offenses, impact of arrest records, charges, and criminal convictions for prostitution-related offenses, experience with law enforcement, including incidents of violence, coercion, or profiling based on race and gender identity, experience of those engaged in sex trade, including victims of trafficking with service providers, including health care, availability of services to support victims of trafficking and persons wishing to exit the sex trade, impact of criminalization on providing services to those who do not wish to exit the sex trade at the time of access, gaps in services and funding to meet the needs of victims of trafficking and those wishing to exit the sex trade, should there be something about HIV or public health in here? And that's the,
Well, it sounds like it lists a lot of the sub-things that the committee on this would be looking into. These are the things you expect the committee to go into. I mean, it encompasses it all under the title heading of sex work.
Well, I think we'd have to be specific if we're going to draw up, because I think asking for a commission is a pretty big step. I think you can be looser or less detailed in your charge when it's a committee of representatives. But if we're going to ask for a commission, I think we need to really outline what the charge is and not leave it too...
I agree with that. You've got to be specific.
Right,
Because someone will say on the committee, that's not one of our duties.
right, but it seems like a lot of the, as we're dealing with victims, advocate things, there's other aspects of it that we're talking about too.
Well, we can add...
Taxation, legalization.
That can be added.
Enforcement,
should I just see if
all
I
the
can
things.
get this printed? It would be helpful if we had it in a hard copy for people to look at.
Can Karen do it
I'm
for
gonna
you
send it
anyway?
before to Karen and ask if she could. Is
And
that,
Yeah, for the bill?
yeah, I just thinking that I'm sitting here in front of.
We should have all copies of that.
Did we,
Yeah, I got
not the
it.
bill itself, just this suggested
Oh, yeah,
list
yeah,
that I
yeah.
just, this document that I just.
Well, it seemed like, to me, there were lots of suggestions in there that could cover, that we include in the focus of the commission.
I would,
But take it one step at a time. If we do a commission that does that, we have to decide how big is this commission, as far as membership goes. So if we change, I'm going to work on one change at a time and get past that. If we do a commission, what would be appropriate? I think in past commissions, we have some appointed by the governor, some appointed by the speaker.
There's lots of different, there's a template of different commissions that I've served on.
well, one that reaches out to all stakeholders, and between the time that we're discussing here and the time that we go for an amendment, say, for example, if someone came to us and said, well, I'm a stakeholder, or my organization's a stakeholder, I'm not opposed to keeping anybody out of the discussion. I think that a fruitful discussion will come from as many engaged voices as possible.
Right, we can't make it unlimited.
No,
We have to-
but I think if we
No, but
say...
you have to get just the people that are really involved in it.
Sure.
On that commission. If you get it too big, you're never gonna get enough there for a quorum.
Do you think
Number
20
one.
is good? Do you think 15 to 20?
That's pretty big. I was thinking more like 9.
Yeah, I would just say, I just finished up 2 years on the Coastal Risks and Hazards Commission, which also happened to have included representatives from every one of the coastal and tidal communities. There were 37 people on the commission. That may have seemed like a lot of people, but there was a way that the commission was found its ways structured to do its work in a time that made it able to, come together to deal with big, we kind of like, everyone chipped in on the final report and the interim reports, but they were just kind of, decided to take a look at different aspects of the coastal risks and hazards and have coordination work. I'm not suggesting that this is the same, but to me, it's all about the structure and the management of the commission.
What do you think is appropriate size?
What's the mission?
Well, the mission would be to establish decriminalization of sex work with an emphasis on, and state those reasons cited as not limited to that, but if the suggestions from both sides that be added to that to make sure that we're specifying what the commission's duty is to, be specific, that should be inclusive, and then we designate the workers.
I'm not even sure that there are sides when you say that, both. I just think that they're.
Well, there's some more focused on the victim side, and others more focused on the
Well, I
criminalizing.
think that you have people with stakeholders that bring different expertise, and that's why,
Right.
that's why I thought it would be, that's why some of those people, I think they just bring things to the table without necessarily having to have one to weigh in on development of particular public policy, but
This is a study
It's gonna go.
to decriminalize,
Yeah,
right?
establishing a committee to study, exactly. So if they're really gonna be fact finding, so we just designate to them what areas we want them to research, provide information on, which we'll do. We've got
Yeah.
a suggested template right now to do that, plus if there's an addition to be added on to that where it's missing from that, we can include that in, but.
So at this point, I would not be comfortable personally with the commission that said, with the commission's charge being to study decriminalizing sex work in the title. If I think that should be part of the charge, I feel much more comfortable with the commission expanding the scope, not keeping, I think it needs to be, the scope of the commission should be something,
Did you get them?
Karen, send it to Karen, she's got it.
the commission should be something more along the lines of looking at, you know, and this isn't the best language, but examining sex work, and then the charge including all of.
Well, that's what we're doing, that's what,
Okay.
but that's what the title, that's what the subject matter is sex work.
Yes.
That's the subject matter.
Sex work.
So all it says is we're studying committee decriminalizing sex work. Underneath that, then we're giving a charge to the commission of what items we're telling them we want them to look into, which could include, if you're all agreement, the issues that were just outlined by the commission, and if there were other ones that are left off of that to be included that we agree on to put in, we'll put them in. But I mean, first thing we get to study is if we have a commission or not. We decide we'd rather have a commission. Okay, now if we have a commission, what size is it going to be? Then the next step would be who makes up the commission. But of course, we're not going to select members of the commission in the
No.
subcommittee. We're going to say who's going to make that selection, whether it's the speaker, the governor, or
Right.
someone else, and that's what we have to decide.
But we can say that they include, and in the bill can say, the composition of the commission will include a representative from
Right,
the
it will.
ACLU.
Yeah,
Right,
Yeah.
but selected by, we have to designate who they're selected by.
Not necessarily, because
Who
if we
picks them
say,
then?
The organization.
the organization, so if we say a representative from the ACLU, they would choose who to send.
I've never seen a study commission.
Oh, yeah,
like
they have.
that.
That's
We never
actually-
did those on Ways and Means or in the
Yeah,
financial
see,
stuff.
the governor will appoint, the governor could usually appoint someone from their office, and then it goes on to the speaker and the,
Well, they've done members of the public for the governor's
We can
office.
do whatever I mean, quite frankly, we can do whatever we want. And I've seen the experience of people where you designate an organization, the organization sends, you have the medical society or designee, you have the
Okay.
farm bureau or designee. It's a farm
Suggestions,
bureau.
who should it be?
He just
Yeah,
read a big
I
on
mean, I'm
That's what he's
hoping-
read.
I wrote it down.
I kind of share your
Yeah.
concerns in terms of how a lot of this is phrased, because what this comes down to says, you know, there's a whole lot of talk around the trafficking. And I think what we're looking at on, you know, for across the whole spectrum, which I think is a very broad spectrum, which worries me a little bit, but the human impact on this, whether it's on a worker, whether it's on a victim, whether it's on a neighborhood, whether it's on public health. So somehow I would like to see us phrase it in some way that we're looking at, you know, the human impact of
I think
this.
that if we write the charge, that's what we should, when we write the charge for the committee, we should do it.
It'll be
It only takes so long.
broad enough that it's gonna go in lots of different directions.
But I think if we don't include something in the charge, part of the problem is exactly as Representative Lockett says, they'll say, well, that's not what we're supposed to look at. So we need to be as clear and definitive as possible.
And I
And
would,
it is hard, these commissions, which there is often some resistance to forming more committees and commissions, but I do think commissions tend to come out with reports that are looked at least initially, a little more, with a little greater respect than the things that.
I know we did a study on the, but it was in 2004, on the jail, lowering the jail population. We got a lot of reaction out of it in the committee, but when it went over to the governor's office and the speaker's office, it was just put on the shuffle desk.
Well, that's pretty much what happens, as you know, with all study committees at some point. But however, at some point, someone asks how many study committees have been done, how many commissions have been done, and let's look at this, now let's make a decision on the subject matter. And that's what I'm looking at, probably by the time I'm in my
Yeah.
80s, we'll have a decision on this. So,
Well, I can't wait to get up there.
but however, in the meantime, again, the purpose of this would be to fact find, to provide information if it's one. So who would be the best venue to do that and the people to make up on that? And what were the suggestions we'd like to put on that commission?
Well, I think this is what Rennie's trying to get copies made of, list 15 people. I don't know, it sounds reasonable to me, except for the last one, which I would say, and if I could ask, I don't know
But
the last person.
I have no idea with Stephanie Halter. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
That's
but I
just
think
an
that
individual name.
there are 14 people, 14 individuals listed, not specific people, but representatives of different interested parties. And I'm open to a suggestion that maybe there's 2 or 3 others who might be reasonable. There's also on this, I don't think there's this list that Rennie has doesn't,
Did you email that to everyone?
actually,
Yeah, I'm trying to be.
I didn't see hear any reps or senators.
no, and I think that's one of the things missing. I think we would say 2 reps, 1 senator, and a governor's appointee would be, I'd say the governor gets 1, reps get 2, and Senate gets 1, in addition to the 14 listed.
Because the senators asked us for not asked for more.
Yeah, the Senate doesn't really.
Yeah, I know, I've been that. All right, so we got 2 members by the governor, appointed by the governor, 2 representatives appointed by the speaker, 1 senator.
You can put 2 and then they can, if it goes over the Senate will always, they're always willing to fix how many senators they want on there.
They do, that's true.
Well, they said only ask for 1 because that's all we have that really to go around, so it doesn't.
Well, they may be, they
What
may think that there's a value in having a member of each party on it.
Did you just send this? Did you send it to me or did you send
I'm
it to
trying to
the
resend it.
I think
I would like to-
just sent it to everybody on the committee.
Which email?
This morning.
Your
Whatever's listed.
Legislator.
Bio.
That one.
Honey, don't send anything to my legislature.
I know.
Right, that's
I
actually
don't.
good.
I know.
Can you send it to my personal?
We've been getting a few emails recently on this committee, like 100. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't open our ledger email, it's just all.
They're not really
Has the sponsor
emails,
seen this
they're
list? Have you seen
It's
this list?
amazing.
form letters.
Do you see it?
Could you-
Did you see this?
Have you ever
I'm sorry,
included
I
that,
thought
please?
Amanda had gotten it too.
All right, yeah.
I will
Here,
forward
did
this.
you see, Elizabeth, you want to come sit?
I would love to take a look
You want
at it.
to, you want to sit?
Sure.
Okay. So I've got 6 members of the commission so far. 2 reps, 2 senators, 2 appointed by the governor.
There's usually only 1 appointed by the governor.
Yeah.
All right.
Usually has a hard enough time finding appointees.
Who else? Who else?
HHS or designee, the commissioner of HHS or designee.
Commissioner.
My big problem with this list is it says 1 sex worker or former sex worker, and they are the voices that have been the most ignored.
All right.
So that's just not.
Do you think, well, let me ask you, because I think that this isn't, and I'm not opposed to changing that, but what I'm wondering is, it's not to say, and I guess a lot would depend on how it was run, but it's not to say that more sex workers wouldn't have a voice. But in terms of the commission, do we need to have more than 1 assigned?
Yes, definitely.
If you're gonna have a big commission, I would think yes. If you have a small one, single digits, 9 or less, maybe 1. But if you're gonna go, 9 or more, and that, and greater.
You think
I
2 is
representatives,
reasonable,
people who are
or-
involved in it, know more, are certainly knowledgeable, they're in it.
Except each committee will have a representation,
One committee.
the list that Rennie had there, they'll bring in 1 representation, 1 voice. to
Right now, we only have
represent the
1, the commission, HHS, the rest of the
whole. No,
government.
he's got the whole list, we just have.
It is listed.
Yeah,
That was
I'm
a
just suggesting-
subject matter, not a.
It was a suggested list. I mean, I'm just kind of speaking generally. One of the concern I have is over female offenders. I go back to the Shea Farm rapes that took
Yeah.
place, and vulnerable, people who are in the women's prison who are vulnerable because they've in there because of, engaged in and just wanted to make sure that the voice of people like there's an offender's voice there. I don't know how we figure that out, but just
how would we get sex workers appointed to it? Who would appoint?
Well, that's
that?
what I actually think is somewhat challenging, and I'm not saying it's not surmountable, I don't know, but I think there is, we have to
Look at us.
think about,
Coyote.
yeah.
Coyote or the Sex Workers Outreach Project or SBLRP, there are a lot of different organizations.
And they do.
What's that?
I would
It's one of the-
suggest anybody we get is from the state of New Hampshire.
That's fine. One thing I do want to draw attention to, sorry.
No, I just say that there
Yeah.
because they couldn't say, well, we don't want to hear what's in Rhode Island,
Yeah.
we don't want to hear what's in Vermont.
Yeah.
We want to know what you put up with in New Hampshire.
Yes. One thing I do want to everybody to be aware of is that a lot of sex workers are very wary of the establishment and of police. So if this is, I'm worried, like especially if there was just one of them, that she'd be kind of all alone, and that there's, you know, the people who are part of the current status quo sort of overwhelming her actual lived experience. And one person who might be good to have on here is, we have like anti-HIV organizations in the area, somebody who works on that issue.
Who would be able to select these, to be able to select them, to get them involved? Who would be someone who could, an organization that we could point to point these people out to get them to the commission? How would we do that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Just through my advocacy, I've talked to a lot of sex workers who live in New Hampshire. They're willing to be in public to varying degrees. You know, some of them are outspoken, some of them don't want to be identified. So we do have somebody at UNH, I forget her name right now, but a professor who did a study recently. She might, I'm not sure if that's an authoritative enough place from which to select.
Well, I think we need an organization, like you mentioned Coyote, someone, whereas right now we're going to the speaker, going to appoint someone, the Senate President, the Governor, the Commissioner of HHS is appointing someone. So who could we have that would be able to appoint someone from, or one or two people from, you know, the industry that would be, that we could identify?
As long, I mean, if you're willing to, the Sex Workers Outreach Project has both national and regional arms. So if you specify like a New Hampshire resident that could be selected by one of those organizations.
By way of the sensitivity that you're referencing in terms of their being uncomfortable within a group, is it possible with a commission like this to have a smaller group that would go and sit and talk with these women and report back for them so that they wouldn't have to be in the room, or does that make it to remove?
Yeah, that's a good idea, but the people who are willing to get involved are kind of tired of being spoken for. So I think it would be good to do the best we can to include them on the commission.
Is this a religion or is it sex workers outreach program? Is that a functioning one with a director and so forth?
Yeah, I can get you more information about.
Well, I was going to say, if we do have someone that is in that position, they would be able to appoint to suggest, you know, names if we did that.
Yeah.
Do you feel as though that the ones from New Hampshire would feel intimidated if they came to a commission meeting?
Some of them. Some of them wouldn't be, some of them would be, some of them recently left, so they will be, you know, they'll be both up to date and less fearful.
So the ones who would that be a large enough sample to satisfy your concerns?
Yeah, I just want there to be more than one. You know?
And I think that if, I'm sorry.
I tend to agree with it, at least two would have to be if we're going to commission that size. You know, again, this is the purpose of this, to get information, and again, it's one of the best sources that people involved in.
Having two is not a problem, but I just think what you're asking for is actually what I think that'd totally be what the commission does, is have people from each group represent a position, including if there are two sex workers on the commission. I would hope that each person, he or she, would not be speaking only for him or herself, but for.
So I was just wondering if we could have like somebody from out of state, like the one from Rhode Island or something, or two of them out so that there wouldn't be any intimidation or think that they could be arrested by the police or something. I said just New Hampshire, but
Well, how about this, or what do we, if we make it the focus is against how it applies to New Hampshire, but let the committee itself determine what's applicable to here. They may be getting information from Rhode Island or Nevada, or someplace that is applicable to here, they'd be aware, but of course the commission's duty is to apply to New Hampshire.
That qualifies to appoint somebody.
And so far, this would be a commission size, if we had 2 reps, one senator, one from the governor, one from HHS, and 2 from the workers program, you'd have 2, 6, that's 7 members right there.
you need to teach the police association.
Yeah, I mean, you listed a whole lot more
I
organizations.
got a whole bunch here.
Yeah, I mean, you listed
that might be
a huge
frustrated
group.
by.
Well, you go by a lot of the subject matter, I thought, most of them.
Well,
No,
like,
it's
it's,
organizations.
they're kind of like the Noah's Ark, 1 by 1 or 2 by 2 you want to get.
Right, and some of them would be appointed by the governor, by the speaker anyway.
Well, you don't have, you can do that, or you can just designate, you can have somebody from Health and Human Services
Yeah.
designated by the commissioner, you can have somebody from the Division of Children, Youth, Families designated by either the commissioner, or either the director or the designee. You can have somebody from the chiefs designated by the organization. Or you can throw it out and say that, the governor will, you can say, you can give a description and give the appointing authority to an individual, either the governor or the speaker. They will be somebody who's experienced in this or that. Or you can just have the organizations do it. There's no,
Yeah,
we can make up whatever we
I
want.
like your list of organizations, and that the designee comes from that. I would love to see the list of organizations.
Yes, so you have, how many organizations do you have?
Here, right here.
Well, there's a bunch, there's like, you have right
Yeah,
here.
we've got there are 15 options here.
That's specific people, Dr. Stephanie.
No, a representative from ACLU,
Yeah.
a member of
is the
New Hampshire
only
Coalition, a
one that's
member of New
specific.
Hampshire Legal, member of Child and Family, member of New Hampshire Minority, member of New Hampshire Coalition, yeah, I mean, there are all these organizations, and people pulled from that to make a commission. So I think someone had that particular, I mean, there's a professor at UNH who specializes in trafficking.
Right, that's what
I forget his name.
Oh,
Yeah, but again, we're-
I'm thinking of a her at UNH.
Yeah, well, there's a he over
No,
there
you're
too.
thinking-
But again, we're
So-
not paying specific people. We're not
Yeah, so
making
we've got a
selection
list of all
people.
these, we have, I think, stakeholder organizations that all in some way have an impact or are impacted by the work that's going on. And I think a representative from all those different organizations would be appropriate, a voice at the table.
All right, there's one specific one, we'd have to scratch that.
Or find out why
You've got-
she's there. And also, but I don't see.
Well, the commission will
did I
never name, is
see-
never named exact designee, I've never known it, somebody appointing the
No,
designee.
somebody,
Remember,
yeah, it's the
But
position.
everything
You've got a
else
member of
is
the New
just-
Hampshire Association of Chiefs of Police. I imagine that they're given demographics in New Hampshire that you may want someone from Portsmouth, someone from Manchester, someone from Concord.
But that's
Well,
up to
just
the,
one.
they,
Yeah.
They appoint them.
they'll
Yeah,
appoint some,
oh,
they will,
sorry.
they will appoint some.
They do a good job of
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
somebody that knows the
The
subject.
coalition against Mex, they will appoint somebody who will be, the
I do-
ACLU, New Hampshire, they will
Yeah.
appoint someone who will be,
right, I'd be fine with us dropping the specific name on that list and including the one,
Right.
workers to 2 instead of 1.
That's
Now we
fine with
get a
me,
commission.
and including the reps and senators and governors.
Is that on there too?
No,
All
Or
right,
you name specific organizations, maybe as you're listing those organizations, the organizations that Representative Edwards was proposing
Ezra, have you seen the
should
list?
be on that
Have you
list.
seen the list?
Yeah,
So maybe there are organizations you can add to that.
a New Hampshire resident identified by Coyote, a New Hampshire resident identified by the Sex Workers Outreach Project.
Okay.
Fine, I'm fine with the language, okay. Do we have a clerk there, or if we have a clerk for subcommittee? Down there, is it?
I think the subcommittee chair usually acts as the clerk.
yeah, he does.
That's past practice, isn't that the practice?
Well, ways and means, it's not technically as easy with the numbers. It's different.
Yeah, no, I don't know, and I'm still waiting for our assistant to respond to the 5 emails that I've sent to the delegate. I cannot figure out why it's not
Yeah, I
working.
would, I'd like to see. And I guess also to your point, this is a little, on one hand, more broad. On the other hand, to a certain extent, it's a little more limiting. Is there a way of changing that we're looking at, human impact on this whole issue, other than just you can't change the name?
No, we can do whatever, we can
Yeah,
change
okay.
everything.
And-
We can
and that
change
suggestion
everything.
you just
We can
had.
strike- We can strike, it can be an act, establish a commission to investigate sex work, or whatever we want to do.
Yeah.
And then we can give a specific charge why we want to do this, and then who's the member, and then,
Okay.
they'll meet in 45 days, and
Yeah.
So you have a
Boilerplate.
suggestion?
Would you like me to have an amendment drafted, or even have a draft of an
Yep.
amendment?
Yes, it has the list that you have there
Yeah.
with the change.
do a draft for
Dr.
us.
Ross.
I'll do a draft.
And come back again.
Yeah,
And I'll have that done today or tomorrow, and we'll meet
you
again.
get time,
Okay.
you got this week to do it, so
Okay.
there's no issue.
So why-
I wouldn't
why don't
schedule, I'll schedule another subcommittee meeting
It's
next week.
not an early
next-
bill anyhow.
Yeah,
I'm sorry?
It's not an early bill, is it?
No.
so I will get something for us to, a draft for us to work with.
Yeah.
I'll include Representative Edwards on any
Yeah.
Good.
kind of,
And what I would also take are the suggestions in an email that have the topics of that too, and then you feel appropriate within it, we'll include
Yeah.
that. And then now what to do is from then is agree on that and then work out the timetable for it and then we'll be done.
so I will get that.
We'll send stuff to you if anybody.
Yeah,
as
if
we
you
wake
want.
up- As we wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, we should do this.
And I'll respond
But-
right away.
No, we will not, no texting in the middle of the night. We don't want to wake people up, but
How loud do you
People
text?
fire alarm.
I don't. Someone actually, no, but actually I was on
I-
a group text and someone complained,
Yeah,
because I didn't listen to it. Somebody had sent a group text out at 3 AM and I didn't get it, but
I know.
somebody else
They
did. And
were
I responded like,
upset.
I'm glad I wasn't listening.
So you mean you want to know how long is this commission going to be in
Yeah,
place?
give,
Well, that's what we'll do, we'll specify when they're gonna be meeting, and a time, roughly timetable, we'll
Yeah.
report out.
I think it's good to put in the
Sunset it.
Yeah,
Pacific time to start the meetings. And I think it's good to have an end to it.
yep,
sure.
What's a typical time frame?
2 years.
2 years?
You can go.
Yep, term.
I mean,
You're only gonna get to meet usually once a month. If you get that, you might not get that, you might every couple of 3 months.
Now, there's
And I
also
think
issues
we-
about mileage and things in there too, about FN.
no,
well, let me
the
see,
boilerplate is, it always says legislative members shall receive mileage. Nobody else
Yeah.
does anything else.
Yeah.
And, I mean, commissions are easy for them.
Yeah.
They just, and when you want to report, the final report will do November 30th, 2018.
18.
I mean, ideally, sometimes you would want to do it so that, with the thought that there'd be a product that would come out of the commission that might include recommendations for future legislation, so when you have it end at the time, people have a document.
So I think if it's November 1st, 2018,
Whatever.
legislation can be filed.
Yeah, so if you want to, if you feel liberty with that
All right.
language, because we'll address that, at least we'll know
Okay,
what's in there.
I'll give you, and we'll just be working from a draft amendment.
So,
Yeah, we're not, we'll wait till we find a project, send it.
yeah. So recap, we'll have a title, just put the title on, we'll have those members that we've designated, include following on that list, those changes. You'll also take the subject matter along that was suggested by the advocacy groups and along with the prime sponsor, combine that into the scope of the committee, then we meet again, we'll determine timetables and so forth. Okay. Great.
How do you feel about including somebody from the Southern New Hampshire HIV/AIDS Task Force?
That's fine.
I'm fine. Yeah,
Yeah, I suggest when you go draft that, maybe two go down.
yeah, I mean, there may be,
Well, you're just gonna write it up, aren't you, Norm?
I'll write it up, then I'll bring it to them so they give it.
Okay.
All right.
well, you can
Oh, they-
just write, well, you
Just
can.
write
But
one
say that
up.
Try to circulate among us.
Say that
I don't think
again,
we.
yeah. Shouldn't we see it again?
Well, they will do a draft, for, not,
You can give it to them, because it'll give them some head start into work.
Just ask them to do a draft,
Yeah.
just ask them to do it in your name and draft.
You mean
form,
legal
have them send it
services?
electronically.
Yeah.
Okay.
When they're done, send it
Legislative.
electronically to the
Right.
members of the
Everybody.
committee and
Okay.
Elizabeth.
yep, I'll do that.
Right.
And just, somebody.
Anybody else who wants to know, I'll
Just,
send it out.
Okay, and what we'll also do then, let's schedule a next subcommittee meeting then,
Here, can you use my home?
which will make, I don't think Dave's got the calendar for next week.
So this is the one you want.
The one I
He's
wrote
got a
down.
calendar, he doesn't have one.
why don't you find out what, you could
Well,
find out tomorrow what David's doing and if you know what we're doing next week and just.
And you'll have time enough to put it in.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Because we couldn't put this in the calendar, this is enough time to get this one.
Yeah, we get it tomorrow, we can do it like next Tuesday, I mean sometime.
I'd like to do it Tuesday, so it goes to the calendar, what's the deadline for Wednesday? Or at least by Wednesday.
Well, I just want, just,
Well, you can't notice now. Oh, yeah, if we get it out tomorrow morning.
yeah, but you can figure out by noon time tomorrow, you know.
Yeah.
You meet tomorrow.
If we meet tomorrow, we're back here and then you'll
Yeah.
know what we're doing.
Okay.
I really appreciate you all taking the time to look at this issue.
So you're taking time to be here, so? Should we read it?
Yep, thanks for coming in. All right, this goes with this.
We'd like to invite you to visit freekeen.com. Freekeen.com features audio, video, and blogs chronicling the transition to a voluntary society. Freekeen.com also has comments and discussion forums so you can be heard. Freekeen.com.
I should be in Keene, New Hampshire with the Free Staters.